Yeah.
Well, welcome everyone to Takeover Tuesdays, and glad you could join us. Happy Tuesday. I hope everyone is well and safe out there and taking care of yourself. And today I am happy to introduce Sue Seiler. And she is the owner and founder of New Roots Counseling and Unbound Retreats. And I'm going to let her kind of introduce herself and tell us a bit more about herself as we get started here.
Sure. Yeah. And, I think as I was thinking about this last night, I was really reflecting on a pretty profound example that I realize now in my older years that I had my grandmother with an 8th grade education started a manufacturing company way back that is still running today in the Detroit area. I grew up in the Detroit area. And so, when I think about women in business and women being entrepreneurs and starting businesses and running businesses, I've really come to realize that I think because of her example, it felt like a normal thing. It didn't feel like an unusual thing. So, and I've always enjoyed running my own business. So anyway,
I love that. Yeah, that connection to our roots and our family.
Yeah,
and for some, but speaking to that, and that's why I'm happy to have you today, because I know there's people out there that maybe don't have that connection and may be interested in shifting. And I know you're going to go into that later of how you shifted careers. But first, let's tell us just a little bit about your story and how you came to where you're at right now.
Yeah, sure. So, I grew up in a family, of course, and like a lot of us, we grew up in families that were not fully healthy, I guess. They were a bit dysfunctional and had their issues. I think that is a norm. And I think we can grow and create resiliency through that. But I remember as a kid really feeling curious about, um, who are we really and why are we doing what we're doing? And, looking around and seeing things that didn't feel congruent to what I felt. So I've been doing a lot of reflecting on that over the years. And I think that eventually got to me to where I am today. I did have a little bit of a different journey to begin with. I did 20 some years in the music field. I was a gigger, gigged a lot and taught a lot and loved it. And then was kind of done. I was beginning a divorce and wanted to not be working weekends and evenings, wanted to be with my kids. And I've always been interested in the human nature of us and why we are what we are. And so it felt like a natural just a natural transition. So I went back to school, went to UCD, got my master's in couples and family counseling, and have been doing that since 2006 and just love it. I so appreciate the human spirit and getting to be invited alongside people's journeys that are often difficult, painful journeys, filled with trauma. I mean, I just want to normalize that I think most of us carry some trauma. We don't have the Leave It to Beaver background. And I think the Leave It to Beaver background would have some trauma in it as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I think, that has always been super curious to me. I feel such a gratitude that people do step into this journey and are willing to invite me alongside, honestly. And the journey's worth it. I just want to really encourage all the viewers that, regardless of what we came from, we can create something quite different. My own life has been a lot of therapy, a lot of journey of transformation, and it's just it's lovely. So
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I know what you play, but I would like, in case the audience is curious, I have to share your music background because I have a love of music, as so many people do, and that's part of my professional and personal background. But if you could share what you play, and just for those that are curious.
Yeah. No, I have a master's degree in flute performance from CU Boulder, and so I'm a flutist, and played all sorts of things. You know, when you're a gigger, you get to witness some pretty fascinating things. For example, for those that are old enough to remember, we hosted the Summit of the Eight, which I think now is called the G20 Summit. And the harpist that I played with for 20 some years, she and I played the opening reception. So, you know, the adventures were great. They were great. The music field has changed a ton. It used to be when I was first gigging, there were no DJs that played weddings and parties. So there's a lot of live music opportunity. And I just watched it change over the 20 plus years. So yeah, it was fun. It was fun. And then I was ready for a change.
So you've seen it all. So when you started to shift into that change, what was was there any particular thing that was your inspiration to transition into therapy and counseling?
You know, a lot of people will remark to me that, wow, that's quite a switch. And actually, I don't find it to be. I found in my own performing that there was so much of really being attuned to what was happening inside of me, not just creating it on the instrument. Because if I was in an anxious state, it would impact how I performed. And in my teaching too, it just felt so natural. So then when I moved to the therapeutic field, it felt smooth and easy. And I also, you know, honestly, when I think about it, through all the years, I was reading a lot of psychology, you know, books around psychology and self-help, and I found that always so curious. So yeah, it was exciting. It felt smooth.
Well, I know that, of course, confidentiality, you can't speak to people's individuals, experiences, but as you're going along in this COVID experience with your practice, is there something that's standing out to you or that you're noticing with, people and things that they're experiencing?
Yeah, and I really, I'm a huge believer in, first of all, just like they say on the airplane, put the oxygen mask on yourself first. So I'm a huge believer of first doing the U-turn back to me, to finding out what's really happening in me. Now, when I apply that to the COVID experience, um, from my own experience and from what I'm hearing from my clients and other people, I really have come to believe that we are all experiencing a global collective trauma. It's global. And I think that level of trauma is landing a bit pretty significantly. So I just want to name that because I'm curious if for the viewers, if they're experiencing things like being way more hypervigilant. I know I'm a lot more hypervigilant. I have a Costco delivering coming today, and I'm planning for the amount of time it's going to take to prep that before I bring it in the house. So, when you think about the hypervigilance around, do I have my mask? Do I have my wipes with me? No, I don't think I'll go out. There are hypervigilance can be way escalated in us. We can also, one thing I noticed the first couple weeks in myself was terror, actually. The word I would use was I was terrified. And so our traumas link to past traumas. So what can be happening in the present moment can feel a bit turbo boosted because it is linking to past traumas. So for example, if a person has some traumas around unpredictability, safety, those sort of themes, then this whole COVID thing could be channeling and activating, going to those older traumas. And we hold traumas, I believe, we hold traumas in our body for sure. The way I describe it is I believe we hold them cellularly. And so that's why it can make the connection. So for the viewers, if they're experiencing more hypervigilance, that would be normal. If they're experiencing struggles with focus and way beyond just why did I go to this room? What was I going to go get in the laundry room? Way beyond that, it can be unfinished projects that you didn't even realize you didn't finish. So the lack of focus has been huge. I'm hearing it from other people and experiencing myself. Lack of concentration has been a struggle. Motivation. We could have thought before this, oh my gosh, if I could be homebound, all the closets I would get cleaned out. Well, they're not happening like we might have thought that they would have, and that's a trauma response. So those symptoms are symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. So I'm not saying we all are diagnosable post-traumatic stress disorder, but this experience we're having is activating all of that in us. So the reason I say that is to just normalize, be compassionate to ourselves, because that is a natural response to it. And some will do some numbing too. So they may not have the other traits that I was naming, but I just want to encourage everyone to be compassionate towards yourself and towards your family members, because we're all under some stress for sure. And those that have been touched by COVID, either by having had it themselves or knowing someone that has had it or having someone that has passed from it, that takes it to another level. So just be compassionate. Trauma is real. Do the U-turn, put your own oxygen mask on first, notice what's happening for you. Another thing, if I can just speak to this, that what I was trying to name in me when I was out doing my walks and such, was I could feel the trauma. The best term I could come to is it felt like trauma congestion. Like the trauma had gotten congested within me. So that's why we need to move. Put on some great music and dance in your home, or get out for that walk and do a brisk walk and soak in, breathe in the outside. Notice how beautiful it is around you. And help to purge that. I actually had a walk where the tears just flowed, and it was getting that trauma congestion out.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And a couple of things that you said really resonate with me as far as normalizing, speaking to, I'm sure, everyone who is working in, especially those on the front lines. I can only imagine what they're going through. But just speaking from my own experience, being a business owner, an educator, you've got all of these demands on you constantly, professionally. And sometimes it feels like if you're not doing this or that, you're being lazy or you're not doing enough. So thank you for just pointing that out, that it's okay right now to, get off track sometimes and not be able to focus, because, I think as professionals, we often feel guilty, or at least I do. I could speak to it. I feel guilty sometimes and have to catch myself.
Yeah, that's exactly true. And I would say for at least the first 3 weeks, I went stay-at-home mode on March 13th. And at least the first 3 weeks, I felt like I was wandering around the house. Mm-hmm. And I would day and maybe I got one thing done. It was just astounding because I'm a fairly productive person. But it really helped me to understand this is a trauma process. We are in trauma. It's ongoing. That's another unique thing is, some traumas last an hour or a day or a couple of days when we're actually in it. This has been weeks and weeks. And so what also activates in us is a need to survive. And that's why then our interpersonal resources are going to be spent on the survival mode. So we're going to maybe have a high focus on getting food, that sort of thing. So just know that there is an activation of that survival need within us, which is also contributing to this. And I think it's contributing to the, I noticed for many weeks, I would get a good solid 8 hours of sleep and wake up exhausted. So that body really working hard to try to assimilate what's happening and make sense of it. There's been such a big shift in our reality, for all of us. I don't know if there's anyone that is still living that would say that there's a reality that was similar. This reality is so different from anything I've ever known. And that alone is such a rattling of our psyche. So again, bring compassion to that with yourself, because it is such a rattling. And then when we get messages from media and all that are incongruent with some of the reality that we know, some of the facts, some of the science, that's another, that incongruence causes such an internal disturbance in us. So there's just so much going on, and I just have so much compassion for all of us, because we're all going to experience it in our own unique way. And if we can have some self-compassion, that's a really good thing.
Yes, and I'd like to acknowledge I have a couple of comments. Andre, good morning, Andre. Good morning, Anthony. And Anthony comments, hypervigilance is very real, and this is true.
Yes, yes. Thank you for that comment. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, and for those of you watching, feel free to chime in or ask Sue questions along the way. We definitely want you to interact, and if you have any comments or questions for her, please feel free to put those in the comments.
Yeah, I'm open to any question. Can I also name another thing that I think, again, there's a phrase called name it to tame it. And I am such a believer in that. If I name what's happening for me, it softens. It does a little bit of a settling, because it got validated and it got recognized. So if we think about, if we were to just sit on our front porch and write a list of the losses that we've had since, say, the beginning of March. And I mean losses around our daily movements, around being able to meet up with people. There are so many losses. So when we have a loss, what typically comes from that is some grief. So we can be experiencing some grief and not recognizing, oh my goodness, I'm grieving. I'm grieving the loss of being able to talk closely to my neighbors, for example. So if you can just spend some time really sitting with the losses that we all have experienced, and some have experienced tremendous losses over the last 6 weeks, the loss of someone that's close to them, and that's just awful. So I want to expand our view of losses from, losing someone that we're really close to these day-to-day losses. There's a wide range of losses, which then tend to all bring on a bit of grief.
Yeah, that's a good point. What would you say to folks who, as we transition into, back into the community, and we're interacting more at stores, or, later on restaurants and such, what would you say to people who have different, I guess, feelings and reactions and thoughts to how to interact in public and to COVID? What would you say to everybody about that?
I just want to encourage everyone to be true to you. So again, that U-turn. What do I feel the most comfortable with? I could have sat out with some neighbors, and I opted to not do that, because I checked here first. Where we get in trouble, I think, with ourselves is when we, in our gut or intuitive sense, when we feel like, well, I should do that, we feel a little bit of pressure, and then we go do something. But inside, notice what you're feeling inside. If you're feeling conflict, if you're feeling incongruence, if you're feeling like I shouldn't be here, trust that. And then know your truth and use your voice to speak your truth. You can say, let's say it's the neighbor thing again. I would love to do that. I'm just not comfortable with that yet.
Yeah.
So really, really honor yourself. I think so many times in our lives we knew in our gut what was our truth, what fit best for us, and we set it aside and opted into what the desires were of someone else. And I really want to encourage people during this time to really just be true to you. Just be true.
Yeah. Good morning, Tanel. One friend of mine's on, and he says, "Be true to you," in all caps. I love it. So he's with it. We got some loves and likes on that. So I can see that people are that's resonating with them, definitely feeling that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to go back to Anthony. Looks like he has a question. He says, what would you recommend for those who are used to being in control, feeling uneasy and not in control during these unpredictable and volatile times? So
Yeah.
what would you recommend for those folks?
Yes. Yes. And I think, that's such a good point. So we're used to having, in a sense of mastery, fairly, for most of our day, basically, mastery over work, mastery over our workplace, that sort of thing, a sense of competence. So now things are so different. And so again, I come back to the noticing what's happening in you and that U-turn. Notice what is happening around that. And how do you navigate that or negotiate that internally? I'm not sure if that answered the question though. What, can you read that question again?
Absolutely. Let me go back to it. And I'm not seeing it right now, but he, if I remember correctly, he basically asked, what would you recommend to those who are used to feeling in control? And I think you were speaking to that. Really, those are used to feeling control and now they feel out of control, and it can be a really volatile time. So what would you recommend?
Yeah, thanks. I kind of lost the control piece. Control is such an interesting thing. If we really get honest and think about, okay, what do I really have control over? It's honestly very little. And that's hard to come to. And I think the parts of us that want and need the control will struggle to have us go there. But it's a great journey. So if I think about what do I actually have control over, I have a bit of control over me and how I respond to things. I don't have all that much control over what happens to me. I don't have any control over what's happening globally. And I think one of the best journeys we can do with those parts of us that are so yearning for control and so struggling to not have it, is to really sit with, I never really had that control anyway, because we didn't. Honestly, if we get right down to the brass tacks of it all, we didn't. And then it's very empowering because now we have some clarity on where do we have control? And so we stop kind of spinning our wheels. I think of the exercise bike where the wheel's going round and round, but we're not getting anywhere. We can stop doing that around things that we really don't have control. Now we can also go down that control road and just say, I want order. I want some sense of routine. I want to know what's going to happen. And we could put that in the control realm or not. To me, that's just a normal human seeking. We do want steadiness. We do well with predictability. So control's a very broad topic. It'd be fun to do like a weekend retreat just on control, I think. It is so broad, but I so appreciate that question because it's so important. We can have the fallacy that we have control over many, many things when in truth, we probably don't, especially when it comes to other people. We have zero control over other people.
Yeah, you could say that again.
That are at home, working from home with young children or homeschooling, that'll be your mantra. Yeah, I really have control over none of this.
What I connected with when you were talking is, I don't know. I was thinking maybe with the mastery, because like you said, we go about our life thinking, okay, I know how to go to the store. I know how to, we do these things kind of on autopilot. And maybe that's where the control piece, we feel like, oh, I'm in control. I go to the store, I go to work. And like you say, we're really not even on an average day, we're not as in control of those things as we think. But I think what stands out to me is that's the beauty of this, maybe, is that we can recognize that.
Exactly. And you know what? I want to encourage everyone. I'm starting to have clients start to speak to this around we can look at what the new reality what's been hard with the new reality. And I'm also now hearing what the gains are. And I'm hearing people and couples in particular say, we're actually doing really well with this more time together thing. And so if everyone can just start to think about, there's some beautiful takeaways with where we are right now. And what do we want to deliberately keep in our life when we are now going back to a normal? There is a beautiful quote from Brene Brown on my New Roots Counseling Facebook page that talks about, we didn't have normal. It's a beautiful quote. So I encourage people to go to the Facebook page for New Roots Counseling. Go ahead and follow that. I do posts on there and some videos and that sort of thing. And but that Brene Brown quote is absolutely beautiful. So think about, what is the gift in this? What have we gained? There have been some beautiful gains, and I'm hearing them every week in my work from clients. So look for those, grab onto those, and we do not have to shift back to the way we did life before COVID.
Sue, can you say that again, please?
We do not have to shift back to the way we did life before COVID. In fact, I want to add something to that. I want to encourage you all to shift into, what do I want post-COVID to be? What do I want to keep in my life that is rich and meaningful? Because I've heard story after story of just these lovely, simple times, connecting times. We are human. I believe we are drawn to connection. And our busy American lifestyle is often one that takes us away from connection. So let's have control over that, around what we create post-COVID.
Yes, I love it. And just so our viewers know, I put in the comments New Roots Counseling Center. So if you click on that, that'll take you right to Sue's page. And she does have a lot of value. If you like what you're hearing, you can hear more of this. Every day Sue's posting some valuable things. And I personally take from them all the time. Go ahead.
I'm wondering if we have time for me to give the viewers a little bit of a tool that is helpful.
Absolutely. I would love you to do that.
Do you want me to do that now?
Yes, please.
Okay. So if you're watching, I want you to have your palms towards your body and link your thumbs. So your thumbs are like that. And then put it up on your chest such that your pointer finger can feel your collarbone. And then just drift your eyes closed and begin to tap. I'm going to do it on top so you can see what I'm doing. Tap left to right, just at a slow, whatever pace you like. Sometimes we gravitate towards our heartbeat, but tap on your collarbone and just notice what's happening in your body. Notice any soothing, any settling of your nervous system. This is beautiful to do when you're laying in your bed and maybe you're struggling to sleep, or you just need to soothe. Our nervous system is ramped up. Our nervous system might be like we're driving down I-25 in first gear, but going 60 miles an hour. It's revved. So we need to help our nervous system settle. And this is a beautiful way to do that. So I hope that's helpful to everyone.
I feel relaxed. I actually do feel a little bit more relaxed.
It's one of my favorite, and it's so easy, and you can do it anywhere, really. And you're also getting a nice little hug.
Yeah, that's excellent. Thank you for giving us that little activity that we can do. And I love those things that are so easy. They don't take hardly any time. You can stop and do them anywhere. For me, those are the most beneficial.
Yeah, and do them with your family. Those that have kids at home, lay on the floor together and lay on the floor and do this together and teach kids how to be more mindful. We need to teach ourselves. I know my generation certainly didn't learn anything about mindfulness, and it is really important. I'm appreciating how teachers are starting to bring it into their classroom. So it's lovely.
With the kids I work with, we do brain breaks, and we do yoga all the time. We teach them yoga moves. So
Yeah.
yeah. Well, we're almost out of time, but before we go, I do want to introduce your retreats. So if you could speak to those, and for our viewers, we're going to bring Sue back to get more in depth about these retreats because it's phenomenal. So I would like you to share just for a moment an introduction about the retreats.
Sure. So the retreats are typically a Friday through Sunday, although if you have a group, we can customize it to whatever you'd like for your group. It could be a day, it could be an afternoon, whatever. But what we do, I'm a therapist that does the deeper work. So I'm working with the parts within us that carry traumas and wounds, and then the defenses that develop to protect those wounded young parts. So the retreats are an immersion into our internal world, working with those parts, relationshiping with them, and beginning to heal them, get them out of their trauma so that they can now relationship with us as our adult self and know that they are well taken care of. So it's really, to watch it from a facilitator standpoint is just a lovely, lovely experience to see people. From Friday night, they drop in and they drop down into the depths, and we just continue to deepen throughout the weekend. And it's rich. It's really lovely. So it's called Unbound. And if you want to know more about it, go to unboundretreats, plural, .com. And there's more information there. We had one scheduled for the first weekend of May, which of course has been rescheduled. The next one is scheduled for the last weekend of September. I'm hoping we're able to really do that. And if you have a group that you would like to bring this in and just bring it in, it's beautiful for a group that knows each other. And we're happy to do that. I co-lead it with a body worker, Chris Stricky, and she is a phenomenal massage therapist, yoga teacher, trauma-informed, does beautiful, beautiful work. So it's a very body-centered, internal psyche-centered retreat for those that want something that's pretty deep. So
yes, and I put it in the comments, and it looks like it came up. So yes, please check out her website, and we are going to bring Sue back so she can get more into that as she reschedules coming up for the fall, her retreat.
Yeah, great. I'd love to come back. Love to come back. Yeah. And then for the listeners, unfortunately, my website is in remodel mode, so you can't get to that, but please feel free to call me with any questions, thoughts. My number is 303-726-8261, and I'd love to chat with you about anything.
And I am putting that in the comments right now. There it is.
And be well, everyone. Really take care of you. And when we take care of here, we're more able to be caregiving, loving, compassionate outwardly.
Yes. Thank you, Sue. It's been such a pleasure and a treat and an honor to have you on and just share your insight, into the work that you do and how that can help us. For me, I think the work that you do is always important, but now more than ever, especially going through things. And this is going to be an ongoing, thing. I can imagine folks are going to feel things from this point on for long to come.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And I have one quick announcement. We are switching over next week to Jessica Spring's agent business page because I have had some requests to watch these over again and watch them from a bigger audience. So I'm going to transition over to that page. I will invite those that I know, those that I don't, please go to, I'm going to type that in, Jessica Springs agent, and we will be showing these lives over there so we can just expand our audience and share this with more viewers. So I look forward to that next week. Thank you to those who are on the front lines, our cashiers, our postmen and women, firefighters, police officers, healthcare workers, people who do all our deliveries, FedEx workers, UPS. I really sincerely can't say enough. Thank you, because you're getting the products we need to us or don't need, cookies, treats. But thank you so much, because you're keeping this whole thing going. You're keeping our world going during these interesting, strange times. And so we thank you. And we look forward to next week. Until then, stay safe and take care.